So that Cunha signed for Manchester United for 63, then they think, hang on a minute. If Cunha is worth 63 and Mbeumo is at least worth the same, if not slightly more, considering how many goals, considering he scored more goals than Cunha, is younger than Cunha. So this is why the two clubs haven't agreed yet anything. But if you're Mbeumo now, you know that Thomas Frank is going to try to hijack that. We know already, there's been talks already between Tottenham and Brentford over Mbeumo, between Frank and Mbeumo too, about the possibility of taking him to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So if it's on paper for Bryan, the two offers, I would suspect similar wages, and the two clubs agree fees, he would have to choose. Surely he will go for Champions League football. There's a point where I agree with Nathan, at some point United will get back to being better than Spurs year after year, like they used to, no problem. But we don't know when. And for now, Champions League, which is a massive pull for any player, anybody. Bryan Mbeumo has never played Champions League football. When he was in the French second division, he never thought he would play Champions League football. Now he's got the chance of playing Champions League football with a manager that has made him the player that he is now. There's no doubt for me that he would choose Spurs over United.
Players that where the player has said yes to us and then negotiate with the club. It's very, very clear from this that we've not been told yes by Gyökeres, have we? We clearly haven't. If he's like saying, look, back off, I want Arsenal, I'll speak to you if Arsenal say no. I don't even know if I want him anymore. You know? I do, but it makes me so angry where we are as a football club. I immediately started thinking about last season, the Europa League final, and how bad we are as a football club, that we're now hoping Arsenal choose Sesko so he maybe chooses us. We can't do the deal. We can't do the deal, can we? We literally can't do the deal now. Like, we're sloppy seconds. We can't. Arsenal fans will just laugh at us. We can't do this deal now. We can't do it. Let's be logical. We can't do this deal. If he wants Arsenal, we can't do the deal. And clearly that's what he does. So you just question what United have been doing for 2 weeks. Have we just spiraled out of control because we didn't get Delap? Look, when you follow the credibility, we wanted Delap. He was our number one priority. He went to Chelsea. We've now gone to Gyökeres, who has said, I want Arsenal. So that's 2 down. Where do we go next? Ekitike at 100 million euros. We'll talk about that next. But you know what? The truth will come out in the fullness of time. But it feels like we didn't get Delap, and we've desperately moved to Gyökeres, and he said, no, I still want Arsenal. So we're sort of desperately flapping around. But we're in a... Look, this is something we've got to be very wary of. We're not in a position of strength. We're really not. We're Manchester United, but we're not in a position of strength. We're desperate. We're desperately trying to rebuild this football club, and you need to try and get players. And I'm not going to criticise the club for knocking on the door of Gyökeres and Sporting, but it feels a little bit like we've knocked on the door and not really, thought it through.
Mbeumo couldn't quite get that one done before the deadline. You still think that'll happen?
It's interesting, this, because now the spectre for Manchester United is Thomas Frank imminently arriving at Tottenham Hotspur, and he would desperately like to have Bryan Mbeumo at Tottenham Hotspur, and he can offer Bryan Mbeumo Champions League football. The information we have as it stands is that Mbeumo wants to go to Manchester United. A lot of that deal on the personal terms side have been agreed in principle. It's just whether Manchester United and Brentford can agree on a fee. Now, there has been one bid of £45 million plus £10 million in performance-related add-ons. That makes it around £55 million package, which Brentford have rejected. There's a school of thought that their feeling is, well, if Matheus Cunha has arrived to Manchester United for £62.5 million, well, Bryan Mbeumo is worth at least £62.5 million. So Manchester United will need to raise their offer. We expect United to go back in. And as I say, as it stands, it's United who are in the driving seat for it. But I'm told just never to rule out anything. And the Thomas Frank situation just might have added a bit of a dimension to a potential, shall I go to Tottenham because I know the manager and I've got Champions League and I don't really have to move home, or do I go to Manchester United? Much publicised financial issues have Manchester United, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe even said as much in some of his interviews. It doesn't mean that Manchester United went into this transfer window with £0 as their budget for transfers. Clubs will be run, all right, we've got this much for transfers, we've got this much for restructuring and whatever else they're budgeting for. And yes, the optics haven't looked great from a Manchester United perspective with regard to the number of redundancies and the number of jobs that have been lost. However, the understanding we have is that players like Cunha and Mbeumo, that's part of the budget that Manchester United have to spend in this summer transfer window. When you go further with regard